Here we're going to talk about matrix bands, Toffelmeyers and Garrisons. So let's talk about armamentarium. This is the Garrison bands. You'll notice there are narrow bands that are contoured. The nice thing about these is that these are contoured. They actually they're concave, so they follow the contours, the convex contour of a normal tooth structure interproximally. These are typically used for premolars or short molars or pedo teeth, and the wider ones are used for molars, obviously, or larger teeth. And basically it's up to the clinician placing them to determine what's the appropriate height. It should extend up to the marginal ridge and not be below it, because if it's below it, it will you'll get a ledge of composite over the top, and it's very difficult to remove. If it's too high, then it's very difficult to pack the composite. You'll notice there's the second set. These have an extension on them, gingivally, occlusally here, that makes them wider in depth than these original ones. These are used for deep preps where you can't seal the gingival margin with this because the preparation went down. If there's a large cavity subgingivally, this allows the band to go underneath the gum tissue and seal that margin. So these are used in cases of deep preparations where I call for the extended bands. There are different sizes of the wedges. You'll notice this style of wedge here has serrations on it, which are really nice because it grabs along the tooth or the rubber dam gum tissues and keeps it from backing out, especially when you have a rubber dam that's trying to push it back out. You'll also notice that this one has kind of a V-shaped area here at the gingival, and this area right here, which is nice because when you insert it into the gum tissue or interproximally, you can actually lift and rock it so that it will come back out the embrasure without poking straight into the gum tissue. The problem typically with the wedges is that when you insert it, it will gouge the gum tissues. So in a case of this, which is just a wooden wedge, these are nice because they are very narrow, as you can see. So if you have a really tight embrasure that is tighter than the smallest wedge that we have, you can customize these by using the perhaps the gold knife and just trimming a little bit around there. But and sometimes this is better being wooden, it doesn't slip out as much. But if you just insert this into the gum, you're going to just go straight in and cause some bleeding, unless you're very careful and watching very carefully so that you do not pierce. The most common problem or error that is made is that because you're coming from the occlusal, you will angle it into the gum embrasure, and that goes straight into the gum and typically will pierce the gum and create bleeding. If at all possible, you want not to create any kind of bleeding in there and to keep the area dry. So when inserting these and you want to actually insert them and then kind of raise up or push gingivally so that it will come out the top and not pierce into the gum tissue. Okay, I don't know if you can kind of see that there. So the nice thing with these styles is because they are rockered, it's easier to insert. This one's too big. We'll use a smaller one. Easier to insert it, and you can start in flat, and then as you get it in between there, you can rock it on that fulcrum and push on through, and it will typically come out above the gum tissue, which is will keep preventing the bleeding. It's up to the clinician, who's ever placing it, the assistant or the doctor, to select the appropriate size wedge that is going to close the margins. You don't just take a wedge and stick it in there without looking at what you're actually trying to accomplish. You're trying to accomplish sealing the wedge against the matrix band, whether it's Tafelmayer or Garrison, to ensure that there's closure of the margin and seal out moisture and prevent composite from slipping down and causing flash, which is very difficult to remove and takes more time. So these are the sizes. The most narrow is this yellow, very slender for very tight areas, then blue, then green, then purple, and then red. The wooden one is somewhere in between here, but it nicely can be customized. The orange one is actually probably between the blue and the green, or perhaps the green and the purple. It's a little different style. It doesn't necessarily go with this kit, so this manufacturer is kind of not congruent with these. But select what is appropriate for the situation, and it'll be great. I want to go back to this new Garrison style of wedges. These actually come on a stick. They are in the Garrison box, and these are made so that you can actually not have to use the cotton pliers to apply these, but actually just insert it straight in, and then you just bend it and snap it off there once it's inserted. I think this will work nicely from the buckles as long as you can get to it. Inserting from the lingual, which is sometimes necessary, may be a little difficult, but it can be, if you've got some room there, it can be applied, and you may have to bend it if the cheek's getting in the way, and inserting it in this way and then snapping it off there. The other thing that is in the Garrison kit are these bumpers. They're actually pre-wedging, so you would insert it at the time of the preparation, insert it into the embrasure without before the cutting of the tooth, and this would help to pre-wedge to assist in tightness. But it also, because of the bumper on there, you could take out a large amalgam. You could cut the tooth itself without worrying of hitting the side there. So this is a bumper for preparation and a pre-wedge. Okay, when you're selecting a band, the Garrison band, to place in approximately, you can see there's two different kinds here. One is a wide, which is typically for a molar. The narrower one is typically for a premolar. However, if the prep is not very deep on a molar, the premolar usually will work better. The main thing that you need to consider are, does it close at the gingival margin? Does it close and seal the gingival margin? And is it sticking up too high or is it too short at the mesial or distal margin of the next tooth? So if we look at these bands, this is the thicker band. Also, I find that it works much better using a straight cotton plier to hold these, especially coming from the front of the mouth, in that you can hold it lightly horizontally or in this position, and then it will place very nicely here. I find the angled cotton pliers are fairly difficult. So when you're placing this, place it in place. You want to kind of wrap the band so it contours with the tooth, and then see how it sits there. So if we look at that, it is sealed at the gingival margin. It's all the way down, but you can see that it actually sticks up quite a bit beyond the marginal ridge there. So it makes it difficult to pack or for me to see when the tooth is in this angle, and I'm trying to get into this box. I can't see that very well. So you don't want it sticking up that much higher than the marginal ridge. So in this case, I would go to a smaller, select the smaller band. Such as this one. You would make sure it's contoured, and always have the other point is, when you're placing these, I'll talk to you and I'll say put the smile down. So this is the smile. You can see there's a smile here on the tooth, or the matrix band. This would be the bottom that I would want down by the gum line. So always put this at the gum line, not this way at the gum line. All right, so the longest part of it, this would be shorter, this would be longer, goes down towards the gum line. Doesn't want to cooperate with us. And you can see once you get that in, it is not sticking up as high over the marginal ridge, and it's very little, but it does come up. You do want to come up all the way to the marginal ridge. Otherwise, if this is below the marginal ridge, such as that right there, you're going to get composite over the top and it's going to lock it in. So it does need to be up above that marginal ridge. And then place the wedge appropriately either at the buccal or the lingual. You want to place this in and then look straight down into the box and see if there's any area that's open. So to me, this looks like on the buccal, right in the corner there, it's a little open. So I'm actually going to switch this around and go to the buccal placement, and this you're just going to have to place it and check it. Usually the area with the larger embrasure is going to be where the wedge will go. When you're placing the wedge, place it in and then kind of push down towards the gum line so that it does not poke the gum. Bleeding of the gum is going to be created if you go straight into the gum there. And you can see it just came out on the lingual above the gum. So if you're placing it in, you kind of place it and then tip it down. You can see how these particular wedges have this almost a rocker teeter-totter. So as you're placing it in this way, you can rock it and it will lift up as you place it in, thereby getting above the gum tissue. Okay, good. Now when you're placing these, you want to make sure that the wedge is actually wedging it so that it is not, so that it is holding it in place. If you get it below it, it's not gonna hold it there. So this type of knot model makes it a little difficult, but you kind of get the drift of it there. Okay. When you're placing the ring, there's two types of rings. This is the older style tying ring, which you can see there's very long legs, and when it's placed between there, can reach right down into that area. The problem with these is that sometimes it would not seal around the band, or if there was a large area that was fractured on the tooth or in the prep, it would not close the area. So these are the newer style bands or rings, and they have a nice rubber area that's a much larger surface area that will go onto the ring. But in placing these, I'll, for demonstration purposes, use this one. When you place these, in order to prevent you from bending the ring, you want to place it, spread it, you can see, spread it, and then come from in front of the ring, or to the band. So in front of the band, come in front of the band to the band. So you're going to actually spread, drop down in front of it, and then come up to it. If you come up to it, then it will actually not fold it. Usually one of the problems that occurs is that when you place it straight down on there, you can fold the edges. Same thing with the other style ring. When you spread this, if you go straight over the top of it, you can see how I'm coming right on top of the band. It's going to likely catch that and bend it. So you want to actually come in front of it just a bit and come forward. Now, this is better when there's on a premolar, but when you have two molars, it makes it kind of difficult. So you have to rock it. And it should drop in, and when you release it, it should hold it in place there. And it will drop like that, holding against the walls. When you have two molars, it's very difficult. This will not, I'm going to pull this for demonstration purposes. If you were doing the second molar, and you spread this as wide as you can. It's not wide enough to go straight down on it, or even at this side it's even wider. So on a molar, what you actually have to do is place one side down first, such as the buckle, and then you can, once the buckle is down, you can actually rock it on the lingual and it will spread across the whole molar. So that's how you do it on a molar. Premolars are much easier. On premolars, especially if you had two premolars, you can actually stretch these wide enough to just drop straight down with plenty of room and then release on there. But again, the motion in a case like this is usually go down on it and then kind of come forward on the band so that you don't bend the band. Let's put the band back there. It came off. Something I want to show you on the ring. You can see on the ring that there's actually a groove here, and the purpose of that groove is to be able to fit right over the wedge. Once this goes down, the wedge would actually sit right into that slot there. So I was holding this with my fingers the last time I put this on. In reality, you really can't get your fingers in from the back of the person's throat. So in reality, the best way I've found how to do this is to hold the band down with the mirror, and then I can actually come right around the mirror and slide down along the tooth here and drop right around there. Makes it very easy. Okay, but that will keep the band from rising up from you. In removing it, you're going to just reverse the process. Use your pliers, your clamp pliers. Bring it up. Again, the straight pliers work best for grabbing the cotton, the wedge that would be pulled out. This band will usually be bonded and kind of difficult to remove. So I find that using these straight pliers, pulling out on the wedge on the corners, pulling that out enough, and then switching from the straight pliers to the dinosaur. I call these a dinosaur. They look kind of like a dinosaur head. These grip really good on a bonded band. You can grab either on the wings here, or if you can, grab in the center and then just lift it up. It's easier on the model. There's no bonding, but it'll take a little effort to do that. But you can just kind of work your way around it.